You're listening to Brazen Bookworm's Unrighteous Reading Rebellion, a reformed book snob's journey and musings through all things romance. Some language may not be safe for all ears. Frequent use of sarcasm may occur. Welcome, everyone. We are here today with, I can't even believe I'm saying this. We're here today with Lucy Score. Lucy freaking Score is joining the lkerSisters on the podcast today, and we are over the moon, super excited to have you joining us today. Everybody knows pretty much who we are at this point. We're the lkerSisters, and we love books and romance and everything to do with it. And we are so excited to welcome you to join us today on the podcast. So for anyone who's been living under a rock and doesn't know who you are yet, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you write.
Sure. I'm, as you said, Lucy freaking Score. I am a #1 New York Times bestselling author of contemporary romance. I live in Pennsylvania with Mr. Lucy and our cat. And yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I love tacos.
Tacos, everything. I thought about it, like we should all go and like grab tacos and have like a little lunch thing. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't eat and talk. That would not go over well.
And the crunching would be overwhelming, I think.
The crunching is overwhelming. I think my Zoom might explode. So, but we are all huge fans. We've been fans for a long time, and I know I was trying to remember before this all started where I first discovered you. I am really new to the romance community. I didn't read my first romance until March of 2020. I know I am so new. I am a baby romance
for you.
So
that's welcome to the community. That's very exciting.
It's been pretty amazing. I think literally saved my life during the pandemic. And I started reading all the things that I could get my hands on once I read my first one. And I came across Bootleg Springs was the first time I read anything Lucy Score. And I was like, oh, I need more. And then Blue Water. And then I just started from the first book that was on your list and binged the hell out of everything. And I am all caught up and waiting for Sweet Daddy. So we're waiting for that. Oh my God.
We're all waiting for that.
We're all waiting for that. So that's how I found you. Julie, how'd you find Lucy?
You know, we were just talking and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I read a couple of the bootleg books. I can't remember. But By a Thread, it just took me and I've not let it go yet. I bet you I mean I read it once, but I am in the car a lot. And so By a Thread is on like a repeat regularly. Like I think I could word for word say it.
That's amazing. And those narrators were fantastic.
Phenomenal. In fact, that's funny. We've actually interviewed several narrators lately, and that was one of the things. I did not read or listen to audiobooks at all. Like I just didn't like them.
Me neither. But
I found that it's the narrator. The narrator makes the biggest difference. And I mean, those narrators are phenomenal.
They were amazing. Thank you. I'm so glad that you were introduced to audio through By a Thread. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
That was me too. I was not an audiobook person. And then Julie was like, you have to listen to By a Thread. And I went, okay. And I think I messaged her like 20 times within the first 3 days because I listened in the car and I'm like, thank you. Thank you. I am now an audiobook fiend. I love it. Listen to it all the time. And I credit By a Thread for my addiction to audiobooks. Just like I credit Julie for my addiction to many things in the romance community. So, Susie, how did you find Lucy?
It was at IIP. Yeah. But I wasn't able to get in line because the line was
it was a long line.
And I remember I was asking Julie because I was walking with her and I'm like, who is she? Because again, I was a newbie and they're like, you never read Lucy's Score? She's like, oh no, we need to get you into Lucy's. And from there, yeah, I read every single book at least twice. So
oh my goodness, that's a lot of books. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Ron, how'd you find Lucy?
we were talking about it before she came on, and that I wasn't really sure because I've read everything. I read the whole list, and I wasn't sure where I kicked in, but I think Mr. Fixer Upper might have been my first book. Like
That
the over
shower
the
scene.
oh my goodness. You got it. And I think that was it, but I read so many of them all like bam, 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 that and due to a glitch, all of my original reviews got ditched, and I had to go re-upload them. So I wasn't sure what the order was, but I think Mr. Fixer Upper was it. But my favorite is Twingo.
Yeah.
Perfect. It was my favorite book last year, all year long. I kept waiting for somebody to knock it off, and then it's still my favorite.
I think that goes for a lot of us, most of us.
Well,
Favorite
I am
books.
honored.
Awesome.
Definitely, Twingo definitely stands the test of what's the best, one of the best books you've ever read, the best book you've ever read. I listened to the first two on audio because, well, the narrators are top notch, and I'm in the car a lot. So I didn't get a chance to read them when they first came out. And I was like, I have to catch up. I felt really behind. I had massive FOMO because everybody was talking about it. And I'm like, so I got the audio and just started listening to them in the car. And I was so hooked. And the stories they're deep and they're resonant. And it was just, I found myself sitting in the driveway, and I could see like my family peeking out the window, like, are you coming in? And I'm like, nope, there's 10 more minutes in this
One more chapter.
Yeah, and I might just go drive around for a little longer just so that they stop staring at me. So I could just listen a little bit longer because I didn't want to let it go.
Yeah. I came to romance. Well, I've read romance since I was 13, but I came back to romance after a long time in the fantasy adventure world, and those books are really fat. And like when you sit down to read a book, if it's under 1,000 pages, you're like, well, maybe it's a weekend read. But that was the thing that like hooked me in. Was it's a girthy book. I mean, it's a really girthy book, and it's not fluff. There isn't, from page 1 to the end, there is no fluff. Everything is essential to the story and moves you forward and draws you in, and it will probably always be my top book.
Oh, thank you. Well, wait until Lucian's book comes out.
That's who I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think we all are. I think we all are a little into the bad boy. So that is exactly what Lucian is.
We have a type. Looking at the questions, I'm like, what's your favorite book? And I'm like, well, so far it's this, but I know that's going to change the minute I start reading Things We Left Behind, because I've been waiting for Lucian's book since he came on the screen, per se. And it's like, that's my type. I need more. And then I was like, oh, he's getting a book.
I didn't plan that. I did not plan his character. I did not plan, like, Things We Never Got Over was supposed to be a standalone. And I started writing it, and when Knox and Nash get into that fist fight in the driveway in the first book, I was like, well, now I'm intrigued. Like, Nash needs a book. Right. And then Lucian just showed up on the page, and I was like, who is this guy? I was like, he definitely gets a book.
I love that. I love when characters kind of come in organically, and all of a sudden they just develop a life of their own. And there's something really amazing about an author's mind, I think, that where you can listen to these voices and say, I can't leave them behind. I can't push them to the side. I know some of the authors I work with, they're so loud in my head. If I don't write their book, they'll never shut up and they'll never write anything else. So being able to listen to that and bring that story out is just, that's a talent that is so deep. And I have so much respect for authors who can focus and say, I'm writing this now, but I know I'm going to write this later, but following that train and saying they're getting a book because there's just too much. They're extra.
They're too already here. And now I need to know what happens.
Well, and I think the question, what's your favorite, is such a, it's like trying to pick what your favorite ice cream flavor is, you know? All ice cream is good, but this one's just a little bit better.
Yeah, and you know, my favorite, just it'll change from day to day depending on how writing's going, or you know, how
Yes.
sentimental I'm feeling. You know, it's a different answer every day, I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a different answer from morning to evening.
Somebody say, who's your favorite kid? Well,
Yeah.
sometimes I could say,
Probably, I feel like I could pick a favorite kid if I had kids.
right.
But I would pretend. I would at least
You have to pretend.
be pretending to not be able to, but I could totally.
Sometimes it does depend on the day. It's like, well,
Yeah.
let's see, which one's rolling their eyes at me right now, and
Right.
which one just slammed the door in my face. Not that my kids would ever do that, but sometimes it depends. And I think that's with books like that too. It's like people are like, what's your favorite book? I will not answer that question. I refuse to answer that question because I have so many favorites.
Mhm.
I have multiple best friends. I have multiple book boyfriends. I have multiple favorite books, and you're not going to change my mind no matter what. But depending on what I'm looking for each day, what I'm reading, what mood I'm in, there's so many that are great. I love Twingo. I love both of them so far. I can't wait for Things We Left Behind. I love By a Thread. There's just so many that are so great. I'm never going to pick a favorite. So uh, I know we're definitely going to get into how this is different, but just to back up a little bit, why did you start writing? Because I think that's a question that comes up a lot for authors is what set you on this journey? How did you find yourself here?
I think words were the first thing that I was good at. And technically, I think words are still the only thing that I'm good at. I spent a lot of time trying to find my in the world, and I just kept missing my mark. I always gravitated towards books. My family is a huge family of readers. My mom's a retired librarian. My whole extended family reads. So I found my comfort in books very, very early on. And I actually was a journalism major in college because I thought writing a book would be way too hard. But I could write news stories. So I just always, took a lot of creative writing classes in college, not enough to have an official minor, but close. And in my spare time, I would have these little scenes play out in my head and I would just write them down in a notebook. So I think that was always at work for me. I just assumed that it would take a different form. I was going to be Lois Lane. And I tried being Lois Lane and I realized it was such a poor fit for me. I don't like the news. The news is sad. The news
Exactly.
it's very stressful. And you're not reporting on like a cute puppy contest. You're reporting on fatal car accidents and devastating things that devastate families.
Yeah.
And for me, I started to think, well, what happens to those devastated families? How do people recover from this? And that's just the way my mind has always worked. And that's not what's important to the news. It's the thing that happened. That's it.
Mhm.
I'm like, what happens in the aftermath? What does that do to a person? How does it affect them for the rest of their life? How does it affect how they feel about themselves and others? So obviously there's something in me that was just very, very curious about humanity and the written word, and here I am. It's crazy.
And it's interesting because amazing that flows into so many of your stories. Like you said, it's the aftermath, it's the what happens later. And that is a central theme in a lot of the things that you write is everybody comes from somewhere. They have some backstory. There's been some either a trauma or something that set them on this path, and then it pulls the rest of the story together, and it's the afterwards. And I'm kind of glad that you didn't stick with news because I like the afterwards. I like those coming together. Um, like I said, I was a pandemic romance discoverer, and those stories, knowing that there was always going to be that HEA, knowing there was always going to be, there might be some drama and trauma, and they were going to get through it and come out on the other side okay, was I think saved my mental health. It kept me from spiraling. It kept me from obsessing, and it honestly brought me together with the best friends I have in the world. because it was something fun and neat to focus on. And it's interesting how when you get the right story in the hands of the right person with the right mindset, and then they get it out to the world, how relevant it can become to people, how they can relate to characters. And it's, I think we definitely see that in romance, and I definitely see it in your books, even though sometimes, the characters are like, what the hell? How does that, why? But you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
There's a reason. There's
I
always a reason.
get it. I love it. Ron, you had a good question.
You've been a driving force in Romancelandia for quite a while now. And I know that you have influenced not only me as an author, but the author I work for. So how have things changed since your first toe in the water book to where you are now? What's different?
When I first started writing, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any other authors. I didn't know anybody in the community. So the first 2 years of my writing career was very solitary. It was just me, and I didn't have anybody that I could go ask questions of, and I didn't have anybody that I could bond over, how tough it is to actually finish a book. And I met Claire Kingsley online, and we hit it off, and that kind of opened up this world to me of all these other people who were doing the same thing I was. We all do it differently. We all write differently. We write different stories, but we're all writing books and publishing them. And just discovering that safety net of friends in the indie romance community has been one of the greatest surprises of my life, I think. I talk to some of these folks every single day. They are such an ingrained part of my life that I can't imagine my life without them. And I think it's just the community in general. We're all romance readers first. And there's just something about people who love and people who are in it for the happily ever after. Those are the kind of people that I want to spend time with. Those are the kind of people that I want to talk to online or in person. And romance readers are the best people in the world because we're open to love in all its forms. We are curious and accepting and excited about everything. And it's kind of not the way that society is telling us to be right now. We're supposed to be building walls and keeping people apart and focusing on ourselves, but romance is like, oh, let's just build a bigger table and then we'll all sit at the table and talk about romance. So I think it's the people, the people of the romance community are just amazing, and I am in awe that I am allowed to be part of it.
Well, I think that it's wonderful that you've built such a big table. I mean, I've been a member of your group for quite a long time, and the way that you are inclusive and inviting and supportive of not only your readers but of the new authors that come on to your platform, it's very impressive to me because it isn't as prevalent as it should be, and you do it well.
Thank you. There's so many readers out there who has time to be competitive with with other authors. Oh no, readers can only read my books. Sorry guys, I only put 2 out this year.
Exactly.
Yep. And that's something we talk about a lot, is the community element of romance, and it's people who love. So, what's more relevant than people who appreciate other people and see the humanity in other people and want to welcome other people. And I love visiting bras. I do not when I get on Facebook, it becomes very overwhelming. So I tend to stick to my book groups. And there are 5 or 6 groups that I visit every single day. And I may not comment on everything. I may not get a chance to like everything, but I look at everything in the warmth that comes through, whether it's a post by you, by Joyce or Tammy, Martina, by your team, or by just another reader like me about something they read, something they found, something they heard, something that's going on in their life. It's an inclusive, there's no judgment. Everybody is excited when somebody has something that goes great and empathetic when something doesn't. And it's like, we're all here, and it's a huge group. You think about, right, going out even to dinner with like 10 people is like chaos and mayhem, and I want to leave, but I will happily dive into a group with a couple thousand people and feel like I am seen and welcomed and heard, and not, pushed to the side or marginalized, because we all have that joy and love of the romance books and your books and everything in common. So uh, there's something that can be said for creating that community, because it always comes from the top. It doesn't matter who runs it, because it's always coming from up here. And that sense permeates everything. It goes through your books and it comes right into your group. So thank you for creating that space.
Well, thanks for being a part of it. I got very lucky. It wasn't that long ago that I didn't know what a Facebook reader group was. And so starting it, I didn't know what I was doing. So I just was myself in the group, and I somehow I got lucky enough to attract so many like-minded people who, we come from all different backgrounds, we're all different ages, we have all different life experiences, but we're all looking for that happy place. And we find it in romance novels, and now we can find it in Binge Readers Anonymous.
Yeah.
It's just really exciting to see a community, like a literal community, form around something like this, because romance novels have been, oh my gosh, a part of my life since since I was 13. I was stealing them off my mom's bookshelf and devouring them, and I was like, this is what life is. It's not like, for me personally, it's not like this adventure search for power and fame and whatever. It's like, I think it's just about experiencing as much love in all forms as possible. And I get goosebumps thinking about it, because my days are so filled with love that I can't get over it.
Susie, you had a good question that kind of tags right into what Lucy was saying. Oh, Julie, I'm sorry. I just talked right over you. Did you say something?
No, it's fine.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I was just in general about the reader groups, the readers, the relationships that are built within. It is amazing. That's all I was going to say.
It's really cool. And I think one of the things that we accidentally did right is, somehow in Binge Readers, we pretty much only talk about what we love. We're not bonding over, oh my gosh, I hate that TV show or that food or that whatever, like, we are bonding over things that we love. And I think that just has like a different vibe to it. I mean, it's very easy to bond over things that we don't like. That's super, super easy.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow the group has just been so consistently focused on positivity and love that I think it's actually affected me in my normal offline life too. I never talk about like, oh, I hated that TV show. I never ever like that anymore. It's a very powerful force.
And when there's so many things out there that you can be pointed to that will make you happy, it's life's too short to do things that you don't like, or that you don't love. So yeah, it's a bad TV show, I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not going to watch it, because there's too many other things I can watch. Books, I'm going to read the books that I know I'm going to love, and I know I'm going to love them because the people who love the things I've already read already love them. So I'm gonna I'm gonna go and find out what they love, because I know I'm gonna love it because they did.
Mm-hmm.
And Julie mentioned the power of book groups. None of us knew each other before pandemic, and we just slowly found each other in groups and connected over books and authors and things that we loved within the community, and all met for the first time at IIP in 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was
so cool.
And it's kind of just grown into its own thing since then. But I've seen so many friendships, true, deep, honest friendships, come from the book groups. That they're kind of invaluable to me, where it's like, this is the source. I cannot place a value on, they're priceless, the groups and what they bring and how they bring people together. So Yeah, again, thank you for creating a space like that, because there aren't many. Like you said, there's lots of places where you can go on and bitch and complain about everything, but spaces where you can bond over things that are just joyful and positive. It's kind of where I want to be.
Pretty
Love a
cool.
teenager.
Pretty cool, guys.
Susie, your question leads a little bit off of something that that Lucy just mentioned, so I wanted you to grab that one next.
How have your life experiences influenced your writing or characters?
Ooh, my life experience. I think I infuse a bit of myself into every book. It depends. I mean, I love writing characters who are totally different from me because it's really nice to escape myself. But so, for instance, Nash in Things We Hide from the Light, a couple of years ago, I had started experiencing panic attacks. And the first time it happened, I did not know what it was. And I thought that I was having a heart attack in the middle of a poke bowl restaurant by myself. And I very carefully packed up my laptop and my bag and my food. And I went out to my car because I didn't want to ruin anybody's day by dying in front of them.
Always worried about others.
I called a friend of mine who's a doctor, and I was like, I think I'm having a heart attack. And she said, where are you? I said, I'm in my car in my driveway. And she said, get out of your car, jump up and down, do 10 jumping jacks. And I did. And she said, are you dead? I said, no. And she said, you're having a panic attack.
It's panic attacks are, very aptly named. They are terrifying, especially when you've never experienced one before and you have no idea what's happening. So I had a lot to work on to get myself back to a healthier, less panic attacky place.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to explore that. Like, I thought Nash's character was the perfect way to explore that recovery, because of everything that he had been through. I hadn't gotten shot during a traffic stop. No, I mean, I was just like overworking. End of story. But I really liked exploring that through another character's eyes. And so bits and pieces like that end up in the books, in the stories, in the characters. Lena, same book. She has an issue with her heart, and I have a similar one. I have mitral valve prolapse and regurgitation, which sounds super exciting, but my condition is much less dangerous than hers. And but it was still a really scary experience for me, especially every time you see a headline that so and so died from mitral valve prolapse. It was just that particular couple was my way of working through things that I had dealt with in the past, and trying to put out like Lena is already through her recovery. She's already in a good place. So she was able to be there for Nash when he needed her. And I just really appreciated that about them. And I just, I think it's so important for readers to be able to see bits and pieces of themselves in characters like that, and happy, healthy characters like that. So I just, there's little pieces of me all over the place.
And I think as an author, or at least as a reader, I think it's important that you understand how the words you put on a page and the situations that you put in your books really do affect readers in positive ways. I mean, whether it's, panic attacks and how he deals with them, it's educating others. And I think you should be commended, as authors when you heal people, even if you don't know about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I've read books like that have healed pieces and parts of me. So I mean, it's just the idea that something that I wrote doing that for someone else is just mind-blowing. Yeah, I don't even know what to say.
You have a lot of characters who are strong and dynamic characters that have big obstacles, and I think that in your books and in other books, it's important for people to see that even people who seemingly have it all together can have panic attacks and
Mhm.
and can, you know, not have a solid grip on what they think their life should be in the
Yeah.
moment, and that you own that as an author and as an individual, that carries weight too, because it's not just a book character. You're saying, I did this, you know, and I'm still doing okay, and I'm #1 New York Times best-selling author, and I
Mhm.
have panic attacks. So
Yeah.
you can have a panic attack and still write a great book.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we're all so deeply flawed. I get so much shit for, especially from TikTok, for characters who make immature decisions. And I'm like, you guys. I'm so glad that none of you have ever
Right.
have ever made an immature decision in your life. That's wonderful. But like me, my life, the people I know, we mess up a lot. I think the focus on therapy that these new generations are getting is so valuable. I think these kids are going to be great. I think these kids are going to be incredible and amazing because none of us were taught, hey, this bad thing happened to you. And you know, what was the standard saying when you fell down? When you rub some dirt on it, shake it, did it fall off? You're fine, you're fine, you're fine. That was the standard for all of the emotional hurt too. Like, stop talking about it, pretend
Yeah.
it's not there, and just go do what you have to do.
Drink
Mhm.
out of the garden hose.
Exactly. So it's like these characters are adults who were never emotionally supported in the way that would turn out a super healthy person.
Mhm.
Like many of us.
Yep.
So
When you're told suck it up and push it down, it's like, okay, so suck it up, hide your emotions, keep going, fake it till you make it. All of these things that we were told, you're right. It's like then we become adults and we're like, don't tell anybody that that upset you.
yeah,
Don't tell anybody that you feel bad because this happened. Just suck it up, keep going. And it's like,
yeah,
yeah, that didn't work out real well.
we just keep spackling over old wounds,
Yeah.
expecting them to just disappear. And so we shop online, we experiment with drugs, we drink too much, we gossip, we do all of these things to relieve that pain that we're not supposed to be, I'm using air quotes, guys, not supposed to be feeling. But we are feeling it. We were
Yeah.
hurt and we were never taught how to get through that hurt and trauma. So I think that's one of the things that I love so much about romance is you get to explore these characters who are deeply flawed, who are becoming the best versions of themselves because they're for the first time sometimes shown real love. I mean, I think you can learn everything through love. I know, like right now, especially in our culture, it's more popular to shame people, like to educate them. But I don't think that's a very effective strategy. Like, understand, like, obviously, some people are terrible. End of story. But somebody who's trying to do the right thing and maybe not getting it, maybe getting it really wrong, like, I think education through love is a lot more effective than shame.
100%. Because shame is not something that it's not something you get over easily. It's not
Right.
something that you learn from, and it just perpetuates more behaviors
Mhm.
that can be more damaging, especially to yourself.
Yeah.
I know I have teens. My older one is a teen for one more year. I'm kind of having trouble with that. And between them and their friends, they are super open about therapy. They are super open about the issues that they face. They are super open with themselves, with each other, with other people. And I know that they will be judged, and I don't care. I want them to continue to be open and honest because it they're going to be healthier for it. And it for me, when I read Things We Never Got Over, and it's to see Nash, who is this accomplished, trained, he's a protector, he's a police officer, and he's having a panic attack. Well, if it's okay for him to have one and to get through it and to find support in the people around him to manage it, then it's going to be okay for me. and for someone else. It's like it gives permission for people to talk about it and for people to be open about the things that they're feeling and that they're going through and accept the help. Because I know we all see this is a big theme in romance, that they never want to accept help. They don't want to admit there's anything wrong. They're so damaged. They're never going to get over it. Nobody's going to be able to help them. And all of a sudden, ta-da, they get over it because they let someone in and they help them. And it's like, oh, well, that's how that works. Okay. So like, maybe I should try that. And if that helps someone get through it, how powerful is that?
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
No pressure though for any other books. Knowing that you've got to heal someone.
Right. And talking about that, Julie, you're going with your question because that filters right into what we've been talking about.
Things we never got over. Knock them out. How did it come about? What made you decide to write about it, the idea of it?
Honestly, it came from a super benign place. The very first inkling I had for the book was whenever Mr. Lucy and I would get in the car, I always plug my phone in and play Spotify. And I would always sneak down to the Honky Tonk, a Jake Owens song, into the playlist. And I would sing it very loudly to Mr. Lucy. And there's a line in there, I've got a dog named Waylon in a driveway that needs paving. And I was like, I wonder who that is. That sounds like somebody I'd like to know. And that's where Knox came from, like that line in Down to the Honky Tonk. And that's where the name of the bar came from.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, so I usually have a bunch of pieces and parts of stories or characters floating around in my head, and I wait to see which one gets the most interesting, and then I kind of just sit back and see what gravitates towards that, and pieces just start sticking together. Like I don't really know. I don't have a good metaphor for it, but stuff starts sticking to other stuff. And there's the book.
So you started writing it, you get this idea from a song lyric, which I love. And then it builds off of that, and you're writing Things We Never Got Over. How did your feelings about it change? I know this is something that we've talked a little bit with other people, and it's like sometimes a book starts and then as it goes, it morphs. Did you think it was going to be the hit it was when you first started? And how did the progression of this story develop?
Well, Things We Never Got Over was a really interesting writing experience. My friend David passed away the day I started the book. And it was, we had known that there were health issues happening, but it never occurred to me that he would not be part of this world. Never occurred to me. So I was leveled. And, his wife, Claire, we're good friends. And just knowing that she was suffering was awful. I mean, it was just such a horrible time for her, obviously, and that I couldn't stop thinking about the trauma that she was experiencing. So I was trying to write this book and trying, and I was grieving. I was frustrated that I couldn't fix it. I was sad that I couldn't do more, be more supportive. And I was depressed like for months. I remember I started it on June 2nd. And I remember it was in September and I still didn't know what the book was about. I just kept like changing things and shading things and just was really struggling with the story. And I remember in September, I just kept saying, what's the point? What's the point of everything? And, I've been there before. I've been depressed before where I can recognize it. And so I knew what it was. I knew it was not a permanent situation. But when you're there and you're like, literally, why should I work out today? What's the point? Why should I eat this healthy meal? What's the point? Why should I finish this book? What's the point? And I just kept writing until I remembered what the point was. It's about people not being afraid to love, even though we know that we're going to lose everybody. It's it's the only choice, you know? And once I realized that, the whole story came back together, you know, it made sense. But it took me 6 months to finish that book, which for me is a long, long time. I missed all of my deadlines. It was supposed to come out in October of 2021, I think. And
Wow.
I think it came out in January of 2022.
Yeah.
But I was so proud of that book. I was so proud of, I think, the emotional excavating that I was able to do on myself. And I think some of that kind of bled into the pages. And I think maybe that's part of the reason why the story is resonating with readers, because they recognize that. They recognize the grief and the hope.
And it really is resonating with readers. I mean, number one, for how many weeks, months, you know, it's still on the charts, and it's still getting a lot of press. And was there a point when you were writing this, when you realized there's something different here? There's something special here. This is not just another book.
No. I think, you know, every book I write, I think I'm trying to teach myself a lesson. I'm trying to learn something important. And so every book, you know, the writing experience is always different. There's different frustrations. There's different walls and obstacles that I run into. But I was definitely not thinking about how other people were going to feel about this book. I was so focused. I was just thinking about how I felt about the story. And when it was done, I was so happy and so proud of it. It still did not occur. I was like, oh, I have to put this out in the world now. Oh, that's going to be awkward. I had no idea. I mean, I knew it was a dramatic book. I knew it wasn't like a gentle, easy read. I knew there was a lot, you know. I mean, it's a rom-com, but it's also super heavy. There's a lot of heavy subject matter in it. And I had no idea how readers were going to respond. And obviously, thankfully, many, many, many people loved it. But all you have to do is look at the 1-star reviews and see how many people were absolutely devastated and hated the story. And that's kind of important. If I don't think you ever get some kind of runaway blockbuster hit unless you have those people hating it. You know, you can't have one without the other.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a balance. It's a balance. And it's funny. One of the authors I work with, the baby author, she messaged me when she got her first 1-star review, and she had a screenshot, and all the message said was, "I feel like I've arrived." She's like, because there's a recognition of, if all of your friends are reading your book and everybody loves it because it's you and they give you all 5-star reviews, and then all of a sudden you get this 1-star review and you're like, oh, somebody I don't know read my book and they didn't like it. Ow, exactly. It's like, okay, that hurts, but that means somebody read my book. And there's a level of acceptance and acknowledgement in the fact of that other people are reading your stuff, and they may not like it, and it's okay. It's okay for them not to like it.
And I came to working in romance from the wellness industry, and what I know to be true from that is that you can have 100 people who say, oh, you go to this person, she's got the corner on the market for figuring out your stuff, and when you work with her, she helps you get to the end of it. And then you'll have just as many people who aren't ready to make that journey yet who tell you you're a hack. Mm-hmm. So I think that there are definitely parallels in romance authors who dig into substantive material, and there are going to be readers who are just not there yet, who just can't embrace that part of the healing journey, and you got to say, next.
Yeah, and there's readers who are going to say that you got it wrong, and sometimes those readers are correct, and it's for them. Yeah. It's really tough to. I mean, you obviously can't make everybody happy, but if I make a mistake, I want to make sure that I fix it and make new mistakes in the future, not the same one. But,
right.
Yeah, it's really hard to wade through the. Every book that I've written has been the worst book that someone has read. in their entire lives, you know? And so it's really hard to wade through that and the personal attacks on me as a human to get to, you know, the ones that are like, hey, by the way, this is not accurate, or this could be done better. So yeah, it's kind of tough to wade through that. And I don't generally read my reviews, so I wait for other people to bring them to my attention.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Well, that's
and
what sensitivity readers are for.
Well, and these poor sensitivity readers, I mean, there are so many people who are like, well, your sensitivity reader wasn't good enough. Their experience was not my experience, and therefore their experience is invalid. And so, I mean, I just have so much respect for sensitivity readers, because they are unintentionally opening themselves up to have their very existence questioned. And yeah, that's tough. That's
Whole other
all in the
question.
name of trying to improve a story for someone. So it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be people who have an issue with something. Unfortunately, there are just people who are like that. And wading through that mess of the chaos of what's not, to find out, oh, wow, okay, that makes sense. So like you said, you can make new mistakes in the future, because I don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again when there are so many more new ones out there that I can be mastering, that it's like, okay, well, I got to put that to the side and move on. And I know that there were people who are like, oh, it was too deep for a rom-com, so I'm not going to call it a rom-com. And I'm like, well, did you like the book?
right.
Oh, I love the book, but it's not a rom-com. So don't call it a rom-com. Whatever you want to call it, you call it. You can call it a purple buzzy bee. I don't care. Did you like the book? You know, so for me, the rom-coms I love the most have some depth to them. And because if I'm spending my time reading a book, I can watch a 30-minute episode of Friends and get all the ha-has I want. If I'm going to be spending this much time reading a book or listening to a book, I want some depth to it. So I'm always looking for those that have something I can kind of sink my claws into.
I want a rom-com that makes me cry.
Yes.
I know I'm guaranteed to laugh. So
Yes.
I want one that moves me on that emotional roller coaster.
Otherwise, it's flat. It's the stories are flat. So
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that, because I always read on the Kindle because it's lighter than the book. It falls on my face. It doesn't hurt as much. But I love those close the Kindle moments where I'm reading something and all of a sudden it's like, right.
Yeah. That line.
Yes. Oh, my highlights we're not going to talk about the pages and pages and pages of highlights in the books that I love, because I just want to highlight every line, but that doesn't happen. That would destroy the purpose of it. But anyway, talking about Twingo and the New York Times bestseller, Susie, you had a question.
How did it feel when it hit #1 on the New York bestseller list?
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. So things we never got over didn't hit #1 on the list, but it did hit the list. So it was my first book ever to hit the New York Times. And Mr. Lucy and I were sitting in our living room, and the editor from Bloom is calling him. And I was like, oh gosh, did I screw up? What? And my first thought is, I did something wrong. So she's like, congratulations, you're on the New York Times bestseller list. I was like, was there a mistake? Like, how? I don't understand. So I didn't even know it was possible. So that was mind blowing. I was like completely shocked, had no idea how it had happened. Honestly didn't know that it was a possibility. So it stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for like 35 weeks, I think. Like an obscene amount of time. And then I was on book tour for Things We Hide from the Light, the second book. And so the New York Times announces the previous week's rankings on a Tuesday. And we were in Miami, and I was in the middle of a signing. And I signed a book, and the next person didn't come forward. So I'm just sitting there at my table. I mean, there's a line. I can see the line. And honestly, I had no idea what day of the week it was. I'm never thinking about that. or I guess it's a Wednesday, isn't it? Yeah, sorry. They announce on Wednesdays. So it's a Wednesday. I'm in Miami. All the details are the same. Looking at the line, I'm like, what's going on? Why aren't you coming forward? And everybody's just like, there's this buzz. And Mr. Lucy's standing behind, and he's got his phone out, and then somebody has a microphone. I'm like, what's going on? So my editor calls, they put her on speakerphone with the microphone. And I'm still like I was like, oh my gosh, am I about to have 2 books on the New York Times bestseller list? Is this really happening? And I'm sitting at a table by myself. Nobody is anywhere near me. And I'm like having this moment, this out of body moment. And Deb, my beautiful editor from Bloom, she's like, she gives me the number for Things We Never Got Over, which was, I think, 10. And she's like, and congratulations, you're an instant #1 New York Times bestseller for Things We Hide from the Light. And I was like, huh? What's happening?
I can also repeat that. You say, okay, everybody, okay, we have an announcement to make. Woo! This is a call from Lucy's publisher, and she has some news. Okay, Deb, let us know what it is.
Hello? Is Lucy there?
Is Lucy here?
I'm
Yes.
I'm here.
Lucy scored the instant #1 best-selling author of Things We Hide from the Light. Is that you, Lucy?
Okay, instant #1 New York Times bestselling author Lucy Score. Okay, she's crying.
I got a tissue.
We actually pulled this off. It's a surprise. Yay!
I know. Wait, there's more?
Oh my god.
Hold on, there's more.
There's more. I don't know if I can do more. You.
Okay, so not only are you #1 on the trade paper list, you are also #1 on the combined P&E list.
So trade paperback and combined list, both #1. There's more.
Wait, there's more. More. Please, sir.
Is in its 20th week on the New York Times list.
Oh, Things We Never Got Over.
10 on the trade paper list.
What? I was literally like, I misheard her. What, huh? And everybody's cheering, and this guy appears because this really super cool bookstore had a restaurant in it. This guy appears with champagne and chocolate cakes. And I'm like, huh? What?
I love that. I remember the pictures. I remember the group, and people were posting pictures. I think Joyce posted, and we were all messaging each other. Like, did you see? Did you see? Did you see?
And Mr. Lucy had flown, my 2 PAs, Joyce and Tammy, are, both my right hand. They're amazing. And Mr. Lucy had flown them down to Miami to surprise me, because we weren't going to have anybody at the signing with us. Usually we have like a helper from the publisher or something, but with the timing and everything, there wasn't going to be anybody there. So they surprised me at lunch at a restaurant. And I still wasn't thinking anything of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, flew my best buddies down here so they can see Miami with me. And yeah, so it was, oh my gosh, you guys, it was so wild. I mean, just to have 2 books on the New York Times bestseller list when I got my start as an indie author, and that was not an option. You could not make the list. So it just never occurred to me to think about goals like that. And I was just blown away, like just absolutely. And we hit #1 combined, but they can't count my ebook sales because I'm exclusive to Kindle Unlimited. I'm exclusive to Amazon. So none of the digital sales counted for that combined list. So that was like, holy guacamole.
Wow. Yeah.
What an amazing testament to your readership, to your efforts, to your team, to the environment you've built, where people were clamoring for this book. I know. I mean, when the first one came out, we were like, really excited, and then it was the momentum that just continued to carry, because you're an author, you put out a book, people read it, and then it's like, okay, what's next? And then you just kind of keep going. But
Right.
it had so much momentum. The first one just kept rolling and building more momentum. And then when the second one came out, it was like it exploded, and it's people are reading romance who've never read romance because they keep seeing this book everywhere, and it's got this beautiful cover, and you keep hearing about it, and people keep talking about it, and the book tour. And
I can't believe
think
this is my
I'm in
life.
tears.
I can't believe I wrote that book. I honestly, I mean, I don't think that Things We Never Got Over has been below 50 or has been above 50 in the Amazon store yet. And it's been out for over a year and a half. Mr. Lucy will correct me on that. But yeah, it's definitely never been out of the top 100. So it just, I can't believe I wrote that. I've seen books take off and go bananas at where they're on the list for like ever.
Yeah.
And I just can't believe that I wrote one of those.
Having read it, I can believe it. I think we can all believe it.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing. And it's,
Well, if you guys followed me
there's-
around in my regular life and watched me look for my car keys for the 90th time and watch me fall down my pool steps yesterday,
oh no,
you might have trouble believing it.
But you know what? That's what makes you real. That's one of the reasons we can believe it, because we're like, oh, she's really a person. Look, she did that. I don't feel so bad about walking into the door frame that I walked into the other day.
I'm extremely real. I texted photos of my butt to friends and family today.
Are you okay?
I am. I have the most spectacular bruise I've ever seen on my body, so I'm pretty proud of it.
Those are fun. Yeah, I sported a bruise on my shoulder for about a week from literally walking into a door frame. And people were like, oh, what happened? And they're expecting me to come up with, I'm a
Something
karate
cool.
instructor. I get punched and kicked for a
All the
living.
time.
And I'm like, they're like, oh, did massive, epic fight? I'm like, door frame. They're like, okay.
I don't know if you guys can see, I'm rocking a vitamin B12 bruise.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what
I'm
we
a
do as
toughie.
we get old. Yes. It's like all the bruises that show up and you're like, oh, that's pretty. Where did that come from?
I know. I'm starting to worry about internal bleeding, I think. Like, a lot of bruises.
See, that's what makes you real. That's going to wind up in a book somewhere. That epic bruise will probably wind up in a book somewhere, because you're like, oh, and then I sent a picture of it to my friends, and they're going to have a picture of my butt.
It's true. I already have a plan for. I don't know anything about the story, but I know the heroine is running away from a one-night stand because she's a commitment phobe, and she falls down his stairs, and he has to take her to the emergency room. That's in my head right now.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Oh, we're coming close on time. Julie, your question's awesome. Go, I want your question next.
Well, back to you being on the list, the combined list without even the ebook sales. I guess as an assistant to several authors, I want you to know that you inspire so many people just by being you and getting where you were or where you are. Is there any advice that you would give a baby author, indie author?
Yes. I think one of the things that helped me most when I was a a babyer author. I still kind of think of myself as a baby author because I don't have 20 years under my belt, but I think one of the things that was really helpful for me is picking one focus a year. So when you're like brand new, focus on writing the best books you can. But as you get more books to your backlist, pick one thing. It's so easy to get overwhelmed by all of the things that everybody else is doing that you should be doing. Are you on TikTok? Are you making enough content? How's your newsletter? How's it blah, 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 blah. Are you doing book boxes? It's insane. Like there's so many different ways that you can do this job. But every year I would set one emphasis, one focus for me and my team. So it would be something like one year it was just write more books. I wanted a bigger backlist. I wanted like a new series. So that's what I did. One year it was grow my newsletter list. So I focused everything that I wasn't using to write. I focused the rest of the energy on how can I do a better job with my newsletter. So I think just narrowing it down to that one focus and setting a time frame for it really helped me because I've always been somebody who's like, what's everybody else doing? Do I need to do that?
And it becomes so overwhelming to authors that are getting advice from 20 people, and one says the newsletter is the big thing and you need a backlist and you need a series. No, you need a standalone. It's like, ugh.
And you'll never succeed if you don't go viral on TikTok.
I think that advice is super smart.
It's wild, all the things that you can be doing and all the things that you really, really don't need to do.
Well, I think my takeaway from that is that you've been doing it for 20 years and you didn't come out minted bestseller day one, that it is something that you have cultivated over decades, and that, a new author can't expect to do it all in 1 year,
Right.
one release. I have one book, then I'm going to hit the bestseller.
You can hope for that unicorn moment. Absolutely. Why not? Why not hope for it? But you have to plan for the anti-unicorn. You have to plan for the slog. Hope for the unicorn, plan for the slog.
I'm trying to think, what's the anti-unicorn? You can, hope for the unicorn and plan for the donkey. It's like something's going to come up behind you.
Hardworking burro.
Exactly. That makes a lot of noise and is really stubborn and just digs its heels in and just keeps going. And it's, that's so valid. And I appreciate hearing you say that, because there is this emphasis on doing all the things and driving yourself into the ground by trying to do everything instead of being focused on one thing at a time, and make yourself successful. And it's like you said, you have to do everything. You have to go viral on TikTok. You have to have book boxes. You have to do 1,000 signings. You don't. You have to find a focus. You have to find a relevance. You have to find your joy in it, because you can knock yourself out doing all these things. And if you burn yourself out in 3 years, where are you going to be in 10?
Yeah.
And you have to write the words.
And you have to write the words. No, I think there's there's a lot of generic advice out there, like the go viral on TikTok. Well, my books went viral on TikTok, but I had nothing to do with that. These were these amazing content creators who are super creative and funny, and they're doing these amazing things on a platform that I don't know how to use. I've embraced the fact that I'm not going to be good at TikTok, and I've let that go. It is the genuine readers who are authentically excited about a book that are doing the most on TikTok. Yes, you can absolutely craft a success on TikTok, and the people who are able to do that, that's amazing. I think that's incredible. But for me personally, it was these other really talented people who fell in love with my book, and they're the ones who get the credit on that. That was definitely not me.
But that says something too, because your books are being picked up by people who have a passion for them, and they follow through on that passion with what their passion is. And it shows, it builds more community. But that's part of what you've established as building that community, writing those books that people can fall into and embrace and enjoy and share. And then somebody hits the right algorithm and it's like, woo, that's kind of nice, but that may not be everyone's thing. So
you can't count on it.
right,
No.
exactly. That's the unicorn. So Ron, your question.
So
I know we're running short.
You've touched on it a little bit because you talk about Bloom a little bit, but so you're working with, not that's what she said, as a publisher now. How has that changed your process?
Oh, it's been such a different experience because I've been indie since 2015. So that was just me and Mr. Lucy plugging away. Tim, Mr. Lucy, he publishes my ebooks and my audiobooks in North America. So we have That's What She Said publishing over there. I signed a North American print deal with Bloom Books. And so they're the ones getting my paperbacks on shelves all over the place. I also have a deal with Hotter Books in the UK. The first deal was print only. So no, I don't remember. So there's 3 publishers, and then there's all my foreign rights publishers. So they've taken my books and they've been translated into other languages. And so it is crazy. Bloom has been wonderful. Hotter has been wonderful. It has been so interesting to come into it as an indie author. And this is the way we do things. Like, my arcs don't go out until 2 weeks before the release because people will forget about the book, right? Well, in traditional publishing, arcs go out like 6 months before the book publishes. And I'm like, people are going to forget this book exists by then. How are they going to remember a book they read 6 months ago?
We remember.
It's so funny to have such a large team behind us, and they're all in our corner, and they're all excited about, what I'm writing and what's coming next. And, I'm surrounded by professional romance lovers now, and it's really exciting. It's been wild. I honestly thought that it was going to be less work on my part. Like, oh, Mr. Lucy and I can take some time off and maybe we'll go spend a month in Costa Rica. No, it's more work. It's everything is just more work. But we're super appreciative of everything that they've done because, without Bloom, that New York Times would not have been possible. And without Hotter, we hit the Sunday Times bestseller list too. So, everybody is working very, very hard.
Well, it definitely shows, and it's the journey is interesting to see, from indie to mainstream publishing and how it differs and how it changes things. And so, keeping that in mind, what's next? What's coming up on the horizon for you with Bloom, with I know you've got another book tour that you've been probably hinting at. I think I saw something, I'm trying to remember where it was, with indies, and then there's other books coming out. So what's coming up next for you?
Well, right now I'm currently writing Riley Thorne 4. So that's a series of it's a reluctant psychic rom-com. It's paranormal light with mysteries and dead bodies and it's super rom-com-y. So I'm having a blast writing that. In September, Things We Left Behind launches on the 5th, and I will be doing a North American tour for that. And then in October, I will be kicking off a 3-week European tour. I know.
That's amazing.
I don't know whose life this is, you guys, but I don't take it back too soon.
I love it. I love it.
Beautiful. I am so hopeful that I'm going to get to see you on one of these tours. The most recent one that you were close enough where I could have gone to was the same day as Charm City Romanticon, which I kind of had to be at because so I had to kind of be there. And I was like, oh man, can I just slip out for like 2 hours and run up to, I think you were in York.
Run up to Harrisburg.
Yes, because my sister lives in Lancaster and I'm like, we could just meet. Oh, it's the same day.
Yeah.
I'm 90 minutes south. And I was like, that would be great. So I know Julie got to see you in Ohio, right? Yeah. think. And I was like, okay, so now I'm waiting for the next dates to come out. My sister and I are like, okay, when the next dates come out, we're going to make sure we're not traveling anywhere because we have to go see Lucy. And so now we're just waiting for the dates, for the American dates. I'm like, well, maybe if I have to go to Europe, let me check my calendar.
There are worse things for sure. Oh, geez, darn. Going to Europe for a book signing? Oh, gosh. How inconvenient.
No, my husband's like, hey, if you can write it off, we'll find a way to make it happen.
There
I
you
went,
go.
really? And he went, no. I was like, oh,
Wah, wah.
I know. So him too. I was like, no.
So to
Anyway,
be respectful of your time
yes.
and because we really do appreciate you being here. We do this crazy thing called that's this or that kind of thing, speed round.
The speed
for it.
round.
We want you to just off the cuff, not
God.
think about it too hard.
I just hired a publicist. She can undo everything that I am about to say.
It's super easy.
It's
Just a this or that. Nothing too controversial.
Yeah.
But and Julie can work her magic and throw something else in there that's relevant if it does. She let
Somebody in a completely different voice is going to answer over my answer.
I'll wait for Dan's call.
And Julie's going to start it off. All right, Julie, you're up.
Coffee or tea?
I was a longtime coffee drinker. Now it's tea. Dandelion root. How weird is that?
Good for you.
Bad haircut or bad hair dye?
Bad hair dye.
Lipstick or lip gloss?
Lipstick. Lip stain. I
I think everybody in bras has bought
I
those.
know.
Yes.
Maybelline.
I love it.
Beach or mountain vacation?
Beach.
Plan ahead or live in the moment?
I would love to plan ahead, but I basically only live in the moment.
Morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
Beer or
I'm
margarita?
trying to become a morning person.
That's a tough transition.
I'm going well.
Yeah.
I can call you at 4 when I get up. Beer or margaritas?
Margaritas.
High angst or comfort read?
Comfort read. 1000%.
Draft or edit?
Edit. I love editing. I don't like other people's edits on my stuff, but I like to clarify.
You're
I like
not alone.
My round of edits. That's where I think the magic happens.
I agree. I love that. Kindle or paperback?
Both. Always.
I love it. See, that was easy, right?
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I screwed anything up.
We don't have to overdub anything. Those are great. See?
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Yes, thank you. It was truly an honor.
It was delightful. It was so nice to see you guys.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is something that we love, and getting a chance to talk to authors and listen to you talk about the things that you love within your profession, your career, and the romance industry itself is so valuable. And so other people hear it also. And, it's fun because I think the top 10, the 10 at the end when we do, sometimes people will message me and they're like, she likes tea just like me. And I'm like, something that small can make such a great connection, but to hear about your books is just incredible and what's coming next. And thank you so much for your time and for joining us on here. And I can't wait to see what comes next. I can't wait to read the next books and hopefully see you somewhere on tour. And
you're always welcome back.
Yes.
Anytime.
Thanks for letting me hang out with you guys. You have such a cool vibe and community going here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.